Today is the 12th of August. We are on the chapter 35, Salayatana Samyutta. Now we come to Sutta 35.97. The Buddha said, "Monks, I will teach you about one who dwells negligently and about one who dwells diligently. Listen to that. And how, monks, does one dwell negligently? If one dwells without restraint over the eye faculty, the mind is soiled among forms cognizable by the eye. If the mind is soiled, there is no gladness. When there is no gladness, there is no delight, piti, or rapture. When there is no delight, there is no tranquility. When there is no tranquility, one dwells in suffering. The mind of one who suffers does not become concentrated. But the mind is not concentrated, phenomena do not become manifest. Because phenomena do not become manifest, one is reckoned as one who dwells negligently. Similarly, if one dwells without restraint over the ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue, body and mind faculty, the mind is soiled, and if the mind is soiled, there is no gladness. When there is no gladness, there is no delight or rapture. When there is no delight, there is no tranquility. When there is no tranquility, one dwells in suffering. The mind of one who suffers does not become concentrated. When the mind is not concentrated, phenomena do not become manifest. Because phenomena do not become manifest, one is reckoned as one who dwells negligently. It is in such a way, monks, that one dwells negligently." Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says a person is negligent when he does not restrain the sense faculties, the six sense faculties, and then the mind becomes soiled among the objects. That means like forms, sounds, smells, taste, touch, and thoughts. And because the mind is soiled, or you can say scattered, there is no gladness. And there is no gladness, there is no delight or rapture. So because of that, there is no tranquility, and one dwells in suffering. And the mind is not concentrated. When the mind is not concentrated, phenomena do not become manifest. What do you mean by phenomena do not become manifest? It means that phenomena is what we sense through the eye, to the ears and all that. What is sensed by consciousness do not become manifest. That means you don't see clearly. You don't see the characteristics of impermanence, suffering and not self. So, because you don't see clearly, then you are one who dwells negligently. And how, monks, does one dwell diligently? If one dwells with restraint over the eye faculty, the mind is not soiled amongst forms cognizable by the eye. If the mind is not soiled, gladness is born. When one is gladdened, rapture is born. When the mind is uplifted by rapture or delight, the body becomes tranquil. One tranquil in body experiences happiness. The mind of one who is happy becomes concentrated. When the mind is concentrated, phenomena become manifest, become very clear. Because phenomena becomes manifest, one is reckoned as one who dwells diligently. Similarly, for the ear, nose, tongue, body and mind faculties, it is in such a way, monks, that one dwells diligently. So here the Buddha says the diligent monk is one who puts a restraint on the six sense faculties. Puts a restraint means he is careful what he observes to the six sense faculties and not pay too much attention to them. Later you'll find Buddha says you should not pay attention to the signs and the details. So if the mind is not scattered among the six sense faculties, then the mind is concentrated and phenomena becomes very clear, becomes manifest, means very clear. You can see the characteristics of impermanence, suffering and not self. So when you see phenomena clearly, then you understand the nature of the world is suffering and not self. Then you become disenchanted and then dispassionate and then become liberated. 35.99. The Buddha said, monks, develop concentration. A monk who is concentrated understands things as they really are. And what does he understand as they really are? He understands as it really is. The I is impermanent. He understands as it really is. Forms are impermanent. I consciousness is impermanent. I contact is impermanent. Whatever feeling arises with I contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, that too is impermanent. He understands as it really is. Similarly, for the other 5 sense bases. Monks develop concentration. A monk who is concentrated understands things as they really are. So here this sutta is very similar to the one we saw earlier in the 5 khandhas. Only thing is the 5 aggregates chapter, it says, what does he understand as they really are? He understands as they really are, the 5 aggregates, instead of the 6 sense bases. Earlier, says you understand the 5 aggregates. So the Buddha always stressed concentration. So nowadays, people teach that concentration is not necessary, but that is one of the conditions for the fading away of true Dhamma. The next sutta is 35.100. Buddha says, monks, make an exertion in seclusion. A secluded monk understands things as they really are. And what does he understand as they really are? He understands as it really is. The I is impermanent. He understands as it really is. Forms are impermanent. I consciousness is impermanent. I contact, whatever feeling that arises, that too is impermanent. So similarly for the other 6 sense bases. So like before in the Khandha Samyutta, here also the Buddha always stressed on concentration and seclusion. Seclusion means either both body seclusion, kaya viveka, and mental seclusion, chitta viveka. Concentration and seclusion are very important to see things clearly. Because when we are concentrated and we practice seclusion, then we attain concentration, then we understand things as they really are, and we become disenchanted. 35.103. Monks, Uddaka Ramaputta used to make this declaration. This surely a knowledge master. This surely a universal conqueror. This surely he has excised the tumor's root, not excised before. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, Uddaka Ramaputta used to make this statement. Uddaka Ramaputta was the Buddha's teacher before the Buddha was enlightened. He had 2 very good meditation teachers. The first one was Alara Kalama, who taught him the Arupa Jhanas, one of the Arupa Jhanas. And then he found that although he attained very high concentration, he did not become liberated. So he left Alara. And then later he came to this Uddaka Ramaputta, another very accomplished meditation teacher who also could attain a higher state of Arupa Jhana. And still the Buddha did not attain liberation, so the Buddha also left him. So here the Buddha says that this Uddaka Ramaputta used to say that he was a knowledge master, a universal conqueror, that he has excised the tumor's root. Later the Buddha will explain that the tumor is a designation for the body, and tumor's root is a designation for craving. And then the Buddha continued, monks, though Uddaka Ramaputta was not himself a knowledge master, he declared, I am a knowledge master. Though he was not himself a universal conqueror, he declared, I am a universal conqueror. Though he had not excised the tumor's root, he declared, I have excised the tumor's root, cut off at the root. But here monks, a monk speaking rightly might say, this surely a knowledge master, this surely a universal conqueror, this surely he has excised the tumor's root not excised before. And how monks is one a knowledge master? When a monk understands as they really are the origin, the passing away, the gratification, the danger and the escape in regard to the 6 bases of contact, such a monk is a knowledge master. And how monks is a monk a universal conqueror? When having understood as they really are the origin, the passing away, the gratification, the danger and the escape in regard to the 6 bases of contact, a monk is liberated by non-clinging. Such a monk is a universal conqueror. And how monks does a monk excise the tumor's root not excised before? The tumor monks, this is a designation for this body consisting of the 4 great elements originating from mother and father, built up out of rice and gruel, subject to impermanence, to rubbing and pressing, to breaking apart and dispersal. Stop here for a moment. Rubbing and pressing, according to the commentary, is rubbing every now and then. You have to rub medicine on your body. Pressing is massage your body when you have aches and pains and all that. The tumor's root, this is a designation for craving. When craving has been abandoned by a monk, cut off at the root, made like a palm stump, obliterated so that it is no more subject to future arising. In such a case, the monk has excised the tumor's root not excised before. Monks, though Uddaka Ramaputta was not himself a knowledge master, he declared, I am a knowledge master. But here monks, a monk speaking rightly might say, this surely a knowledge master, this surely a universal conqueror, this surely he has excised the tumor's root not excised before. That's the end of the sutta. So, before the Buddha was enlightened, even though you had great meditation teachers with psychic power and all that, but not a single one of them could show the way to liberation, to enlightenment. It was only the Buddha, after the Buddha was enlightened, then he decided to teach, and he was the Sammasambuddha, the highest in spiritual attainment. So, that's the end of the sutta. The Buddha says somewhere in one of the suttas that only when you have the Noble Eightfold Path that you can find Aryans. If you don't have the Noble Eightfold Path, you cannot find Aryans. The next sutta is 35.110. It's on page 1186. Monks, I will teach you the things that can be clung to and the clinging. Listen to that. And what, monks, are the things that can be clung to and what is the clinging? The eye, monks, is a thing that can be clung to. The desire and lust for it is the clinging there. The ear is a thing that can be clung to. The desire and lust for it is the clinging there. Similarly, for the nose, tongue, body and mind. So the sense organs are the things that can be clung to, and the clinging is the desire and lust for the 6 sense organs. These are called the things that can be clung to, and this is the clinging. 35.114. Monks, there are forms cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a monk seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, he is called a monk who has entered Mara's lair, who has come under Mara's control. Mara's snare has been fastened on him, so that he is bound by the bondage of Mara, and the evil one can do with him as he wishes. There are, monks, sounds cognizable by the ear. that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, tantalizing. If a monk seeks delight in them, welcomes them and remains holding to them, he is called a monk who has entered Mara's lair, who has come under Mara's control. Mara's snare has been fastened on him so that he is bound by the bondage of Mara. Similarly for the other six sense, the other sense organs. So here, stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says that if a monk seeks delight in forms, sounds, smells, taste, touch and thoughts, then he has entered Mara's lair, Mara's dwelling, and he has come under Mara's control, and Mara's snare has been fastened on him, he is bound by Mara. And then the Buddha continues, there are monks, forms cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a monk does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, and does not remain holding to them, he is called a monk who has not entered Mara's lair, who has not come under Mara's control. Mara's snare has been unfastened from him, so that he is not bound by the bondage of Mara, and the evil one cannot do with him as he wishes. Similarly, there are sounds, smells, tastes, touch and thoughts that are desirable, lovely, pleasing, tantalizing, etc. If a monk does not seek delight in them, then he has not come under Mara's control, and Mara's snare has been unfastened from him, so that he is not bound by the bondage of Mara. That's the end of the sutta. If we take delight in the sense objects, and sense objects actually the sensual pleasures that come through the senses, worldly pleasures, then we are caught by Mara. But for people who don't know of any other happiness, that's the only happiness they know, so it's very natural to be caught by Mara. So only when we become streetwise, become world-wise, understand the world better, then we have more wisdom. Next sutta is 35.118. On one occasion, the Blessed One, that's on page 1192, on one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha on Mount Vulture Peak. Then Sakka Devaraja, king of the Devas, approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, stood to one side and said to him, Noble Sir, what is the cause and reason why some beings here do not attain Nibbana in this very life? And what is the cause and reason why some beings here attain Nibbana in this very life? And the Buddha said, Lord of the Devas, Devaraja, there are forms cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a monk seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, his consciousness becomes dependent upon them and clings to them. A monk with clinging does not attain Nibbana. Devaraja, there are sounds cognizable by the ear, smells, taste, touch and thoughts that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a monk seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, his consciousness becomes dependent upon them and clings to them. A monk with clinging does not attain Nibbana. This is the cause and reason, Devaraja, why some beings here do not attain Nibbana in this very life. So if we cling to the things of the world, then we cannot attain Nibbana. There are a lot of the Devas, forms cognizable by the eye, sounds cognizable by the ear, etc. that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. If a monk does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, and does not remain holding to them, his consciousness does not become dependent upon them or cling to them. A monk without clinging attains Nibbana. This is the cause and reason, Devaraja, why some beings here attain Nibbana in this very life. That's the end of the sutta. So from here you can understand, you want the goal of the holy life, you have to give up. If you don't give up holy pleasures, you can never attain. 35.120. On one occasion, the Venerable Sariputta was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Natha Pindika's park. Then a certain monk approached the Venerable Sariputta and exchanged greetings with him. When they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side and said to Venerable Sariputta, "Friend Sariputta, a monk who was my co-resident has given up the training and returned to the lower life." He's saying the monk who shares the kuti with him has disrobed. And Venerable Sariputta said, "So it is, friend, when one does not guard the doors of the sense faculties, is immoderate in eating, and is not devoted to wakefulness, that a monk who does not guard the doors of the sense faculties, who is immoderate in eating, and who is not devoted to wakefulness, will maintain all his life the complete and pure holy life. This is impossible. But friend, that a monk who guards the doors of the sense faculties, who is moderate in eating, and who is devoted to wakefulness, will maintain all his life the complete and pure holy life. This is possible. And how, friend, does one guard the doors of this?" Stop here for a moment. So here, Venerable Sariputta says that these three things are very important for a monk. If he wants to maintain the pure holy life, three things are extremely important for him to practice. If he does not practice these three things, then he cannot maintain his holy life and will disrobe. So we go through these three things one by one. And how, friend, does one guard the doors of the sense faculties? This one is called Indriya Gutta Dwara. Indriya Gutta Dwara. Here, having seen a form with the eye, a monk does not grasp its signs and features, since if he left the eye faculty unrestrained, evil and unwholesome states of covetousness and displeasure might invade him. If he practices the way of its restraint, he guards the eye faculty, he undertakes the restraint of the eye faculty. Similarly, having heard a sound with the ear, smell with the nose, taste with the tongue, a touch with the body, and a thought with the mind, a monk does not grasp its signs and features, since if he left the faculties unrestrained, evil and unwholesome states of covetousness and displeasure might invade him. He practices the way of its restraint. He guards the mind faculty. He undertakes the restraint of the faculties. It is in this way, friend, that one guards the doors of the sense faculties. Stop here for a moment. So here, Buddha says, if a monk is diligent, then when the six sense objects impinge on his six sense bases, he does not pay too much attention to them. For example, when he sees something, he doesn't pay too much attention to the general features. Here it says the signs, or the details of it, the minor details of it. For example, you see somebody of the opposite sex. If you look closely, then you think, oh, this girl is beautiful, or that man is handsome. Then covetousness arises, desire. And then if you cannot get what you want, then the displeasure will follow. That's why here it says, if he left the faculties unrestrained, evil and unwholesome states of covetousness and displeasure might invade him. Similarly, when you hear a sound, or you smell the smell, or taste and all that, don't pay too much attention. In other words, the mind has got to be fixed on your object of contemplation, object of meditation. For example, if a monk is practicing anapanasati, so he has to keep his attention on anapanasati all the time. Or if he is watching his mind, then he keeps watching his mind. In other words, his attention is not diverted out to the world, it goes inwards. So there's a restraint of the faculties, guarding the doors of the sense faculties. In other words, you don't want to be too much of a kepo, interested in all the worldly things. And how, friend, is one moderate in eating? Here, reflecting carefully, a monk takes food neither for amusement, nor for intoxication, nor for the sake of physical beauty and attractiveness, but only for the support and maintenance of this body, for ending discomfort, and for assisting the holy life, considering, thus I shall terminate the old feeling, and not arouse a new feeling, and I shall be healthy and blameless, and live in comfort. It is in this way, friend, that one is moderate in eating. Stop here for a moment. So here, when we take food, then we reflect that we are not taking the food for amusement, that means because we want to enjoy the food, or for beauty of the body, but the main purpose is to support and maintain the body and ending discomfort so that it won't get sick, for assisting the holy life so that we can practice the holy life. And then you have to consider, thus I shall terminate the old feeling. The old feeling is feelings of hunger, and not arouse a new feeling. New feeling is like feeling of greed. So I shall be healthy and blameless, and live in comfort. So the Buddha's standard, moderation in eating, would seem a bit ascetic to many people, because the Buddha recommends 1 meal a day. The Buddha himself says he eats at one sitting. But because some monks complain about this eating at one meal, then he allowed them to keep the food, the leftover food, and eat it before noon. In this country it's 1 o'clock. You can say then he allowed 2 meals. But generally the Buddha did not want to trouble lay people, so a monk can only go on alms round 1 time a day, in the morning, after dawn and before noon. That means in this country after 7 a.m. and before 1 p.m. And how, friend, is one devoted to wakefulness? Here during the day, while walking back and forth and sitting, a monk purifies his mind of obstructive states. In the first watch of the night, while walking back and forth and sitting, he purifies his mind of obstructive states. In the middle watch of the night, he lies down on his right side, in the lion's posture, with 1 foot overlapping the other, mindful and clearly comprehending. Actually, this word, mindful and clearly comprehending, is sati sampajanya. Sati is recollection, and sampajanya is mindfulness. After noting in his mind the idea of rising, after rising in the last watch of the night, while walking back and forth and sitting, he purifies his mind of obstructive states. It is in this way, friend, that one is devoted to wakefulness. Therefore, friend, you should train yourself thus. We will guard the doors of the sense faculties. We will be moderate in eating. We will be devoted to wakefulness. Thus, friend, should you train yourself. So this devotion to wakefulness, here the Buddha says, during the daytime, a monk should purify his mind of unwholesome states. Unwholesome states meaning states of greed, hatred, delusion, states of sensual desire, states of ill will or anger, states of sloth and torpor, states of restlessness and worry and doubt. These are the 5 hindrances. To do that, we must always keep our mind on one of the 4 stations of recollection, the sati or satipatthana, the object of sati or satipatthana. This word sati, sometimes people translate it as mindfulness. It is not general mindfulness. It is a specific mindfulness. The proper translation for sati is recollection. That means always remembering your object of contemplation. Always remembering. Because this word, sati, comes from a root word that means to remember. So to remember, to put your mind only on your object of meditation or contemplation, and not to allow it to run out to the six senses, to see things, to hear sounds, to smell, taste, and all that. So here the Buddha says during the daytime the monk should sit and walk to keep his mind in check, to maintain his samadhi. And then at night, there are 3 watches of the night. The first watch is generally, if you take 12 midnight to be 12 o'clock, then 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. Is the first watch, the first 4 hours. These 3 watches, add them together is 12 hours. So the first 4 hours is the first watch. The middle 4 hours from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. Is the middle watch. And from 2 to 6 a.m. Is the last watch. The Buddha said that his disciples, even the first watch, they should not go to sleep. They should maintain their wakefulness, not allow themselves to fall asleep. And then from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m., they should lie down, but still maintain sati sampajanya. To maintain sati sampajanya, that means you have to be mindful as well as recollect your object of meditation. So that is not easy to do, because when you are tired, to maintain your wakefulness is very difficult. But because the Buddha's disciples, they practice very hard, so they maintain their mindfulness until they are able, when their samadhi is good, they are able to maintain it. If they have 4 jhanas, then there's a chance they can maintain. If you don't have the 4 jhanas, I think it's quite impossible, because your mind is weak. You tend to lapse into a sleep state. So it's because the Buddha's disciples practice like this until they have actually mindfulness 24 hours a day. That's why when they become Arahant, the Buddha says all Arahants have mindfulness 24 hours a day. In the Vinaya books, you cannot fault any Arahant. You cannot accuse an Arahant of any fault, because his mindfulness is maintained 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So these are the 3. So in the last watch, then he gets up, and then he still does walking and sitting, fighting. Actually, this meditation is basically a fight against sleep. Meditation is a fight against sleep. That's why meditation is so hard, so difficult. So these are the 3 things. One is guarding the doors of the sense faculties. Second one is moderation in eating, because if you eat too much, you become very sleepy. And then third one is devotion to wakefulness. We come to the next sutta, 35.121. This sutta is also found in the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 147. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then while the Blessed One was alone in seclusion, a reflection arose in his mind thus: the states that ripen in liberation have come to maturity in Rahula. Let me lead him on further to the destruction of the asavas, that means to liberation. Stop here for a moment. This Rahula is actually the son of the Buddha. And when he was 7 years old, the Buddha asked Sariputta, I think, to ordain him. So after that, he kept on the robes, and then later took the higher ordination. Because he was the Buddha's son, the Buddha was concerned for him, so the Buddha thought that it's time to lead him to enlightenment. Then in the morning, the Blessed One dressed, and taking bowl and robe, walked for alms in Savatthi. When he had returned from the alms round, after his meal he addressed the Venerable Rahula. Take a sitting cloth, Rahula. Let us go to the blind man's grove for the day's abiding. Yes, Venerable Sir, the Venerable Rahula replied. And having taken a sitting cloth, he followed close behind the Blessed One. Now on that occasion, many thousands of Devatas followed the Blessed One, thinking, today the Blessed One will lead the Venerable Rahula on further to the destruction of the asavas. Then the Blessed One plunged into the blind man's grove and sat down at the foot of a certain tree on a seat that was prepared for him. The Venerable Rahula paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down to one side. The Blessed One then said to him, what do you think, Rahula? Is the I permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself? No, Venerable Sir. Similarly, are forms permanent or impermanent? Is I consciousness permanent or impermanent? Eye contact, feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, permanent or impermanent? And to all this, he says impermanent. And then is the ear, etc. For all the 6 sense bases. All these, that means the 6 sense base, the sense organ itself, and then the sense object, and then the sense, the consciousness, and the contact, feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, for each of the different sense bases. So you see, the Buddha purposely, he asks very slowly, one sense base by one sense base, and each sense base is so detailed. First he'll ask forms, are forms permanent or impermanent? The eye permanent or impermanent? Then Venerable Rahula says it's impermanent. Then the Buddha makes him see that what is impermanent, subject to change, and suffering is not fit to regard it as this is I and mine. And then after that, he moves to the sense object, and then to the consciousness, and to eye contact. So every one of these is repeating what is impermanent, is suffering or happiness. Then he has to say suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent, suffering, and subject to change, fit to be regarded. This is mine, this I am, this myself. And Venerable Rahula has to answer all these for so many times. You see, like one sense base, like the eye itself, how many times he has to go through? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times. 8 times. Just one sense base. So 8 times 6 is 48, isn't it? 48 times he has to repeat all this. The Buddha purposely makes him repeat all this to drive home the point, what is impermanent and suffering is not fit to be regarded as this is mine, this I am, this is myself. Seeing thus Rahula, the learned noble disciple, experiences revulsion towards the I, revulsion towards forms, revulsion towards I consciousness, revulsion towards I contact, revulsion towards anything included in feeling, perception, volition, consciousness arisen with eye contact as condition. He experiences similarly revulsion towards the ear and all the sense bases. Experiencing revulsion, he becomes dispassionate. Through dispassion, his mind is liberated. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge, it's liberated. He understands, destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. This is what the Blessed One said. Elated, the Venerable Rahula delighted in the Blessed One's statement. And while this discourse was being spoken, the Venerable Rahula's mind was liberated from the asavas by non-clinging. And in those many thousands of devatas, there arose the dust-free, stainless vision of the Dhamma. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation. That's the end of the sutta. The Buddha made this Venerable Rahula repeat all these statements until he really see it clearly. Then Venerable Rahula attained enlightenment, liberation. And there are many thousands of devas and devis that were there listening. All of them attained the Dhamma vision, or attained stream entry. That's the most devas can attain. They only listen because they don't cultivate like us, because there's no suffering for them, no incentive to cultivate. So you see this, the Dhamma that leads one to enlightenment. Now we hear it so many times, but we still haven't become enlightened. That's why everybody has time. 35.127. On one occasion, the Venerable Pindola Bharadvaja was dwelling at Kosambi in Gosita's park. I stop here for a moment. This Venerable Pindola Bharadvaja, you don't meet him many times in the suttas, but in the Vinaya books, he's quite famous. How he became famous was one day, a rich man, he wanted to see whether there were still any arahants in the world. So he sent a message all over the place, saying that he is going to hang a golden bowl very high up. And which arahant has psychic power, he can fly up and take that golden bowl, and that is his, he can have it. So this message went around. So this Pindola Bharadvaja, he walked, like the Buddha's time, the monks, they walk from place to place. So he came to this place, people told him about this. So he flew up into the air, took the bowl, and then holding the bowl, he circled that village, or that town, circled 3 times, and then he came down. So he became famous. And then people offered him so many things until his kuti was overflowing with all the requisites, honey, all the things that were allowable at night, honey, whatever else, prunes, dates, all that. There's another incident about him, is that the king, because the king was very impressed with the Buddha and the Buddha's disciples, they were trying to excavate, I think, a cave to practice. So the king gave them a lot of workers, and the workers came with their families. So the whole village of workers was meant to serve the monks, the sangha. So they did work for the monks, and the monks would also go to the village on alms round to collect food. So one day, this Pindola Bharadvaja, he went to this village, and one small girl was crying, and he asked why is the small girl crying. And then this family happens to be very poor. So this small girl saw the other kids having things to play, put on their head and all these things, but she had nothing to play. So this Pindola Bharadvaja, I think it was him, he used his psychic power, he created this, what do you call this? They put on the head, tiara, something like that, made of gold, solid gold, and gave it to this girl. And this girl saw it, it's the most beautiful toy in the whole village. She was so happy. Then the news spread, and then came to the king's ear that this small girl has got this golden, beautiful, what do you call it, tiara or what, which probably is more expensive than the queen's one also. The king sent for this man, asked him where he got the thing, and this man could not explain. Because the father could not explain, the king put him in jail, said he must have stolen it. Then this Pindola Bharadvaja, this Arahant, heard about it, and then he went to see the king. So he explained to the king, he explained in an indirect way. I think he used his toe to press on the ground, and the whole palace became solid gold. So he asked the king where your gold came from. And the king understood. King released that man. Okay. Then King Udena approached the venerable Pindola Bharadvaja and exchanged greetings with him. When they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side and said to him, Master Bharadvaja, what is the cause and reason why these young monks, lads with black hair, endowed with the blessing of youth, in the prime of life, who have not dallied with sensual pleasures, lead the complete and pure holy life all their lives and maintain it continuously? And he said, Great King, this was said by the Blessed One who knows and sees, the Arahant Sammasambuddha. Come monks, towards women old enough to be your mother, set up the idea that they are your mother. Towards those of an age to be your sisters, set up the idea that they are your sisters. Towards those young enough to be your daughters, set up the idea that they are your daughters. This is a cause and reason, Great King, why these young monks, lads with black hair, endowed with the blessing of youth, in the prime of life, who have not dallied with sensual pleasures, lead the complete and pure holy life all their lives and maintain it continuously. And then the king said, the mind is wanton, Master Bharadvaja. Sometimes states of lust arise even towards women old enough to be one's mother. Sometimes they arise towards women of an age to be one's sister. Sometimes they arise towards women young enough to be one's daughter. Is there any other cause and reason why these young monks lead the complete and pure holy life all their lives and maintain it continuously? And this Venerable Pindola said, Great King, this was said by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha. Come monks, we view this very body upwards from the soles of the feet, downwards from the tips of the hairs, enclosed in skin, as full of many kinds of impurities. There are in this body head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, bone, marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, pleura, spleen, lungs, intestines, mesentery, contents of the stomach, excrement, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tear, grease, saliva, snot, fluid of the joints, urine. This too, Great King, is a cause and reason why these young monks lead the complete and pure holy life all their lives and maintain it continuously. And the king said, that is easy, Master Bharadvaja, for those monks who are developed in body, developed in virtue, developed in mind, developed in wisdom. But it is difficult for those monks who are undeveloped in body, undeveloped in virtue, undeveloped in mind, undeveloped in wisdom. Sometimes though one thinks, I will attend to the body as foul, one beholds it as beautiful. Is there any other cause and reason why these young monks lead the complete and pure holy life all their lives and maintain it continuously? And the Venerable Pindola said, Great King, this was said by the Blessed One who knows and sees, the Arahant Sammasambuddha. Come monks, dwell guarding the doors of the sense faculties. Having seen a form with the eye, do not grasp its signs and features, since if you leave the eye faculty unguarded, evil, unwholesome states of covetousness and displeasure might invade you. Practice the way of its restraint. Guard the eye faculty. Undertake the restraint of the eye faculty. Similarly, having heard a sound with the ear, smell an odor with the nose, severed a taste with the tongue, contacted touch with the body, having cognized a thought with the mind, do not grasp its signs and features, since if you leave the faculties unguarded, evil, unwholesome states of covetousness and displeasure might invade you. Practice the way of its restraint. Guard the faculties. Undertake the restraint of the sense faculties. This too, Great King, is a cause and reason why these young monks lead the complete and pure holy life all their lives and maintain it continuously. And the king said, "It is wonderful, Master Bharadvaja. It is amazing, Master Bharadvaja, how well this has been stated by the Blessed One who knows and sees, the Arahant Sammasambuddha. So this is the cause and reason why these young monks, lads with black hair, endowed with the blessings of youth, in the prime of life, who have not dallied with sensual pleasures, lead a complete and pure holy life all their lives and maintain it continuously. In my case too, when I enter my harem, unguarded in body, speech and mind, without setting up mindfulness, unrestrained in the sense faculties, on that occasion states of lust assail me forcefully. But when I enter my harem, guarded in body, speech and mind, with mindfulness set up, restrained in the sense faculties, on that occasion states of lust do not assail me in such a way. Magnificent Master Bharadvaja! Magnificent Master Bharadvaja! The Dhamma has been made clear in many ways by Master Bharadvaja, as though he were turning upright what had been turned upside down, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. Master Bharadvaja, I go for refuge to the Blessed One, and to the Dhamma, and to the Bhikkhu Sangha. From today, let Master Bharadvaja remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. That's the end of the sutta. So you see this Venerable Pindola, how well he answered the king. He said, why the king could not understand why these young monks haven't tasted all the pleasures of life and still can lead their holy life so purely. So the first thing the Venerable Pindola said was the Buddha taught them to consider them as their own relatives, all women to be your mother, some to be your sisters, and some the young ones to be like your daughters. But then this king says, that is not easy to do. You still, when you see them, I still can have lust. Then the Venerable Pindola said, the Buddha also taught to contemplate the 32 parts of the body. We recite the 32 parts of the body and contemplate the 32 parts of the body. Then when you see a body, you not only see the outside. Generally, when we see somebody, we only see skin deep. We only see the outside. We think, oh, this girl is beautiful, or that man is handsome. But when you consider all the things inside the body, full of excrement and urine and blood and pus and snot and all these things, then it's not so attractive anymore. That's the purpose of this meditation on the 32 parts of the body. And on top of that, the Buddha also taught to guard the sense faculties. Whenever anything comes into our six senses, six sense doors, we have to set up mindfulness, not to pay too much attention, because once you pay too much attention, then either you see it as attractive or you see it as unattractive, and different feelings arise. And when feelings arise, then a lot of thoughts come up, and then unwholesome states of mind come up. So these are the three things he quoted. In fact, there are other things also, but here only three things are quoted. So the king was so impressed. The king says, it's true. I also, the king said, when he goes into his harem, he sees all his beautiful wives. He also finds it difficult to restrain himself. I think I'll stop here tonight, and then because this next sutta is quite long. The later part of this chapter, you find some very beautiful similes, analogies, parables given by the Buddha. The Buddha said that these rules are made with a purpose, so we have to understand if a monk touches money or something valuable and unwholesome states of mind develop, then he should not. But in the case of an Arahant, he does not develop unwholesome states of mind, that's one thing. The other thing is, even the Buddha himself, in his early years of teaching, was extremely ascetic. And I remember, I think, monks, he forbade monks from using something in the bathroom or something, I don't know. scrubbing the body or something like that. Something quite minor the Buddha did not allow. But we see in the suttas when the Buddha grew old, he became more relaxed. Towards the end, somebody offered him, when he was about to pass away, the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, offered him some cloth with gold sewn on it. He also accepted. Not that he wanted to use it, he definitely didn't want to use it, but out of compassion for the person who offered, he gave that person a chance to do merit. So sometimes all these things, the precepts are actually made for younger monks who find it difficult to restrain themselves. If you didn't have these precepts for them, they would not be able to restrain themselves. But for people who are matured, then actually the precepts are not a problem. The other thing is, sometimes you find with the Buddha, sometimes like he made certain rules, and yet some of the rules he did not keep himself. For example, he didn't allow, I think after this incident, the Buddha did not allow monks to show off their psychic power. But sometimes he would also show off his psychic power to impress some people who sort of didn't have any respect for him. Like sometimes after debating with some external ascetic, then he fly off into the air and back to the monastery. Sometimes if you feel that something needs to be said, we can say it, but try to put it in a nice way, not to offend people. For example, say it with a smile or in a joking way or something, people don't get offended, or just point out the notice. So that's one way. And then sometimes also you see that person, if the person is very sensitive, then you can forget about it. Don't say it, especially at that time. Maybe some other time. The Buddha says, right speech. We should also know the time to say it. So we have to sometimes use our wisdom. Usually, if we say things in a nice way, usually people can accept. Answer is not difficult. The only thing is whether a person can do it. Renounce. Let go. It was so easy, the Buddha would not ask people to go forth and renounce. That's enough. If you can practice at home and still do your business and all that, the Buddha would not ask people to renounce. It's for the purpose of that, and that's why people renounce. Systematic attention. Where is this mentioned? Can you tell me the more details about the sutta? Maybe this word, systematic attention, comes from the Pali word yoniso manasikara. This word yoniso manasikara, there are many translations for it. One is systematic attention, one is thorough attention, one is proper attention, one is thorough consideration, and all this. So what it means is when you contemplate something, that all your attention is there, so that you can see right through. Actually, the word yoniso manasikara comes from the word yoni. Yoni means the womb, the birthplace. Okay, and then manasikara comes from the word mana and kara. Mana is the mind. Kara is the work of the mind. Work of the mind is either you consider or you pay attention or you reflect. So the consideration or the attention that goes to the birthplace, the root of the problem. In other words, if you hear the Dhamma, then you consider it deeply. thorough attention, you can say, thorough attention. Then you can understand. If you listen to the Dhamma, half-hearted attention, then you won't be able to absorb it. So that's why you need this yoniso manasikara, thorough attention. It is said in the suttas that you can attain right view and become an Arya with two conditions. As in the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 43, it says that you achieve right view with two conditions. The first one is the voice of another. That means somebody else teaching you the Dhamma. And the second condition is yoniso manasikara, thorough attention, a proper attention. When you listen to the Dhamma, you pay proper attention, thorough attention, deep attention. Then you can understand, then you can achieve right view. And with that, you enter the stream, become an Arya. This thorough attention is very important. Whatever you do, you must have thorough attention. Perfect sila is just a precondition. Precondition. If you have perfect sila and you can enter the stream, then you don't have to be a Buddhist. You don't have to listen to the Buddha's words. You just keep a sila. Like other religions also have sila. But if you don't hear the Dhamma, you can never attain stream entry. Different centers or different Buddhist centers practice different things. But actually in the Sutta, or maybe the Vinaya books, the Buddha did mention that in the Buddhist religion, we don't just keep silent. Buddha said that this is an external sect practice. It is allowed to speak, but speak what is important, what is necessary. But even then, the Buddha's disciples sometimes did practice silence. There's one time, there's one sutta where 3 monks, they lived alone, lived together, these 3 of them, and they practiced together. Every morning they go on alms round. And when they come back from alms round, they will have their food. They will cooperate by bringing the water for washing the feet, water for washing the alms bowl, and they bring the dustbin and all that. And after eating their food, they will clean up. They all do. But even like they want to carry water, they won't. They try not to talk at all to each other. The whole day they won't talk to each other. If they need somebody's help, they will just signal, and then, so that's how they pass the day. But at night, after they spend the day meditation, at night when they come together, then they will discuss Dhamma. So it's not that they keep Dhamma the whole day. It's necessary to speak, they will speak. So like in certain monasteries, centers, you see they maintain silence. That is maybe good for certain periods, but long term, you cannot. It's not practical to maintain silence long term. That self, that person who thinks that he is the self, that person. Because unless you are enlightened, you still have the self, right? So this person that is not liberated, he is the one, he thinks he gets the karma. In your dream, suppose somebody slaps you in your dream. In your dream, when you wake up, then you know that it was only a dream. But when you are dreaming, that time somebody slaps you, you feel the slap. Isn't it? You can't say. Because you have not woken up. You have not woken up from your dream. So when you get the slap, you feel it as real. Right? So similarly, before you are enlightened, the unenlightened person, he is the one who receives all that karma. Only when he's enlightened, then he knows it's just like a dream. Now we transfer merit.